pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, savvy investors out there, super duper. We're going all the way to Sacramento, California. We're going to chit-chat, get down with Al Williamson, also known as the AirBnB landlord connoisseur by day. He is a civil engineer. He makes the world go around with bridges, which is really interesting. He has 10 units, and he's very creative. Even though he's an engineer by day, this cat knows how to change things, make things better, and make more money. So, welcome to the Savvy Radio Show, Mr. Williamson. How are you?
Thank you, sir. I'm so pumped to be here, man. Thank you. I'm a big fan of the show. I'm a fan of the show.
Okay, right on. I'm excited. I know that you're in the works of getting your own show out there, and I think that's awesome. A lot of people don't know you and don't know me, which is even better. So we're tag teaming to get the word out about landlording and being technology advanced in many ways. But I was really impressed with Mr. Williamson as he spoke at the Mr. Landlord conference with a word that I don't hear a lot, auxiliary income. I'm like, what word? That's way too big for me.
Wait, man, I know this is your show. But let me check you for a quick second. It's ancillary. Ancillary income.
Yeah, whatever. Extra income in my world, money in the
bank
that I wasn't expecting. And you did a whole seminar on like 50 ways or more how to make extra income off of your rental property, which was so awesome and fascinating. And, you know, your goal was just to have it fund itself, you know, pay the debt down even further. But we'll get into that in a minute. But first, I think savvy investors out there, Al has written a couple of books. They're on Amazon. He speaks around the country. We share the stage together on a lot of events, and I'm just honored to have Al on the show. I've been begging him to be on the show, and he's like, I'm writing another course. He just released a new course coming out called AirBnB for the Landlord. And if you already got a pen, write down AirBnBlandlord.com. And we're going to cover that here. What does that mean? There's some investors out there never even heard the word Airbnb. And honestly, I didn't know Airbnb until about 18 months ago and when I met you. Isn't that sad?
It's emerging still. It's emerging.
Yeah, it's so cool, though. Like, you were on the forefront already converting units over to day rentals, which is fascinating. We'll cover that in a minute. But let's get started on, all right, I think what really turned me on, that I just love what you do, is that you took a hood to good, meaning you had a really rough neighborhood, and you were the forefront of that and turned it into a wonderful place. And let's kind of just briefly go over what was so bad about this environment, these units. Why would you buy? I mean, you're a civil engineer by day. I know you're not like me, I'm out there every day trying to buy deals. You're looking for, but before we even get into that, how did you even get into real estate? And you already have a successful job. So why are you in real estate? How'd you hear about real estate? How'd you get in it? Let's start there. And then we'll go into the good, the hood.
So it starts at a church picnic, man. I was this older cat who had a bunch of duplexes cornered me. He started to offer me some advice. He knew I was getting married and whatnot, and he just kind of dropped the bomb on me that we should consider a duplex instead of buying a house together. And then told me to go look into that. So that's what triggered it all off. I got that, picked up some books, and I felt comfortable with the numbers, and I said, hey, this works. This is just algebra, and I loved algebra, so that's what started it off there.
So someone piqued your interest that you were going to get married, that you were going to incur expenses, and to supplement your income, hey, friend, go look into buying a duplex. Now, you live in Sacramento, California, where, you know, I buy $50,000 houses, and that's like $1 to you. How do you find deals? Did you buy a duplex? Was that your first property?
Yeah, it was my first property. So this was back in 96. And the whole thing was, it was a 3-unit Victorian near downtown Sacramento. And at the time, it was going for $148,000, and which seems funny back. I mean, you can't buy anything in Sacramento for that now. So,
no.
but that was way back then.
Did it need a lot of work?
To me, it needed some work. It had a lot of cosmetic things going for it. Had that historical charm, the gingerbread going at the top of the roof line. It was 100-year-old Victorian, so they always need work.
Yeah. So what did you do? So how'd you finance the deal?
We lived in one of the units, so we did a owner-occupied type of financing. So it was basically first-time homeowners financing. So I really was, at the time, I was trying to do a no-money-down deal.
Your first deal was trying to do a no-money-down deal.
Yeah, I wanted to do no money. I wanted to work it all out. So I took you come in with just 5% as your first-time homeowner. Had good credit, was working as an engineer. I took a loan against my car because I didn't want to come up with any cash. I wanted to use my cash for some fix-ups. And I may have pinched my father for a couple of dollars to put it all together. But, yeah, we did it. We got in with a car as collateral loan and the first-time homeowner program.
Okay, this is crazy. So you never really heard about real estate. Some guy said, hey, check into duplex. You find a triplex, downtown Sacramento, and then you have the balls to do a no-money-down deal. Where did you – most people were just excited to buy a property. And at this time, you didn't own any property.
Right.
You were renting, I'm assuming, and you're falling in love with a gal. You're going to get married. Yeah. And what gave you the kahunas to say you're going to do no money down deal? Where'd that come from? There's got to be a book, a seminar, a course, someone.
Yeah, it was a library, man. You just go and read I was reading library books at the time. I was paying for the wedding, so my money was tight because I was paying for a wedding, a ring, and everything. And all this made sense to me. It all kind of worked out. It made sense. So I did a lot of reading until I felt like I was reading the same thing over and over again. So I felt like I had a real good grip on it. It was still scary. Don't get me wrong. It was outside my comfort zone. It was it was a 2-story building. I didn't own anything. It was this big 2-story building with 2 other tenants.
Okay, so this is 97, you said?
96, yeah, 96.
96. And so it was, a 2-story building, and then did they already have tenants in the property?
It did. It was fully occupied. We had to kick someone out so we could get in.
Now, is this the property that you had to clean up the neighborhood, or is this...
No, this is before that. This is before that. Now, here's what's interesting is this Victorian 3-unit was in the middle of a neighborhood that was undergoing a revitalization. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew things were happening there, and I wanted to jump in. But already the groundwork for a neighborhood revitalization was already in place, and I just jumped in, and in 5 years, the place quadrupled in value.
Wow. Now, we could talk about 30 minutes on this one property. I'm just fascinated. Have you refinanced that property and did a lateral move and bought more property from there? Yeah,
so we refinanced. First thing we did was we got my wife's student loans paid off with a refinance, and we were able to cash flow it and pay off her loan. So that was big because those loans are some type of payday loans, those student loans, and the way they work. That's just, like Don King wrote those laws for that, wrote that contract.
I'm still fascinated that you stumbled into this, and you've read some books, and here's savvy investors out there. In the United States, only 3% of America owns a library card. This guy, the top 3%, buys a property that quadruples, and then, man, so after obviously you cut your teeth on this, 2-story building, you probably made a lot of mistakes, went through hell and high water. You're still doing it how many years later?
Almost 20. He's 20 now. I guess it's 2016 now. I'm 20 years into it now.
Dang. So when I see you next week, I'm gonna buy you a drink. But all right. So then what happened from there? Was there a time where you wanted to give up? Did you what was your wife like? Was she supportive? Obviously, if you paid her loans up on the refi, she's still now. But
she was tripping. She was tripping. She was generally supportive, but all of her friends, she was an RN. She out of nursing school and whatnot. All her colleagues were living in houses, white picket fences, and here we are. She said we live in an apartment, even though we own the whole joint. We live in an apartment. So.
And you were not in consumer debt. All her friends were jammed up with new cars and big houses in debt.
We should have came. We should have came to you. We should have came to you for marriage counseling.
You know, like when I got married, my wife, when we got married, right at the gate, no debt. We're going to pay these loans off ASAP. And we did, like, we didn't do nothing but pay off loans.
That's
For
good.
her, I dropped out, you know, savvy landlord. No, didn't finish, but I had debt myself. But all right. So you got into this. So were you excited? Were you continuing your education? How are you finding deals? You know, are you finding like, were you like hungry? What was your next move from there?
My next move was to make sure that the whole thing was, move a tenant into where we were living. So we bought a house, and the whole thing was going on its own. And then I was on the move trying to become a multi-millionaire. That's all. You know, I was in my 30s. That's what I was focusing on was money. So that's what happened there. Let's see what we did. We helped a friend flip a house. We kind of were like funding his flip, and we did okay there. And then after that, we felt like we were rock stars. We knew it all. We went into the hood.
Okay, you found this property. Tell me about this property, how much it was, what was the cost, the condition.
The place in the hood.
Yeah, the place in the hood. Good. Hold on. Listeners, this property I saw pictures of this deal. I've heard Al talk about this. This is my stomping ground. Like, you're going to get shot past midnight. Yeah. You know, it is dangerous. Yeah. And you found a property in this area, and what was the number?
It was $340,000 for a 8-unit apartment complex.
Okay, that's good numbers. What's that? What's that divided per unit? 340 divided by 8.
Yeah, what is it?
40,000 a unit. Okay.
Yeah. So we could buy it at that, and it would be cash flowing with a no money down deal. If I borrowed the second, if I borrowed the down payment and got a commercial loan, it was still cash flow.
And that's what you did? You borrowed the money?
That's what we did. Yep.
Was it $60,000 down or?
Yeah, and I borrowed some fix-up money. This all from family. It's basically, my dad was pretty cool. He calls it loaning us our inheritance so that we could, if we blow it, then you blow it. But if you can pay some interest on it, get it going. It's a good way of doing things.
So you acquired this asset. How many units were vacant? What kind of work did it need done?
They needed everything. These cats in there were, they were prostitutes, working girls, and this was at the headquarters for the local Bloods, the little gang. Yeah. So they had all kinds of bags being passed over the doors and people coming and going, and firearms on the property, all kinds of drama,
Were you working your day job at the same time?
Yeah. I was working at Caltrans at the time, yeah.
And were you scared?
Yeah, there was times, my sister didn't even want to come in the gates of it, and my wife was pregnant at the time, so I didn't really want her hanging out there. And, when the Lord has something for you, you're empowered to go do it.
You put on your big panties, and you went out there and said, I'm going to do this. And you saw the upside, right? Well, did you know what the number was going to be? You were, what was it, 340? Did you know what the property fixed up in the perfect price?
Other properties, the same thing in the better neighborhoods was going for close to $600,000 for the same building. If I could restore the reputation of this area and get it to appraise at the same value as the good neighborhood, then that would be worthwhile. That's not really appreciation, but it's basically getting paid to restore the reputation of the neighborhood. If I can go from 340 to 600, that's worthwhile.
And that was your motivation, okay?
That's my motivation,
So, and then you got this desire, like, okay, I got to clean up this neighborhood. What was your first action plan, your first call, your first thing that you remember to get the ball moving?
Well, let me back up a couple steps. This apartment building was in an area that was designated as a revitalization zone. So there was funds available, there was political motivation behind it. They had extra police people working that were working in the community for outreach, and those things were already in place. So those are the things that you have to look for to see that you're going to be successful, because organizing those things takes a lot of work, and you're not going to make any profit unless those things are in place. So once they were in place and, there was an active, the first step was to get involved with the neighborhood association. So I could see what's going on because the organization of a neighborhood, the communication, those types of things is what's necessary to make any advancements. It's like you hear me talk about, it's all about leadership. If there's no organization to lead, then you have to go around and do all that grassroots stuff, and it's going to eat up your time and your profit. And most likely, your revitalization will fizzle if you don't have access structures in place.
So did you know this going in before the property that there was an eye on this area? Were you aware of that?
I was aware of that. Remember, I had just gone through with that threeplex. I had just experienced what a neighborhood revitalization was like because my property quadrupled. Businesses started coming in, and there was nice little coffee shops down the street and things like that. So I didn't do anything for that. I was just on the right wave, So,
right.
So I was all confident after that. I wanted to go into the edge of the hood, not into the middle. I call it the fringe, not the fray. I went on the fringe, and I saw everything was in place. That the police was working, the politics was working, and the neighbors had started to organize themselves. As without the neighbors, you're just pouring money. You can pour money at the situation. It just keeps goes right through. Doesn't fix anything unless there's grassroots on the ground that people talking and people wanting the neighborhood to get better themselves. The neighbors have to want to. Big developers can't make that part happen. Yeah.
Speaking of money, was it cash flowing when you purchased the property, or did you have to clean it up? And how long did that take?
My first action, besides introducing myself, I had a friend walk with me because I was nervous to knock on those doors and pass out those letters. My first introduction was, hey, I'm paying you guys. I'm going to give you $500 to give me your keys in 30 days, and I'll bring you boxes. They couldn't move. The people living there could not move because they were welfare check to welfare check. They could come up with a rent, but they couldn't come up with the down payment they could come up with the deposit. So I was going to give them
your plan was
the
to pay them cash for keys, in essence, and to get them to move down the road far away from you as possible.
That's it. I even gave them Craigslist ads of places that had similar rents, and I was going to give them the deposit money, which was the anchor. They could never come up with that $500 on their own. They just didn't have and if they did, they would spend it on something. So they would never, I would have to go all the way through the eviction process because they didn't have the $500.
So that's a smart, and it looks like you were being generous. You were helping them, giving them free money, and helping them find and relocate with the Craigslist ad. I like the technique. So you had to get
right in boxes. We took a box.
Boxes and like a U-Haul and the third Thursday we're all moving together.
Yeah, they were all full, and I don't know if those guys would have made their first rent payment. So I jumped them before we had that conversation. That was the first move, was to not to worry about. I had the rents credited to me in the closing, and then that was part of my down payment. Was their deposit? The seller was to transfer the deposit money from the tenants and credit that towards my down payment.
I love that. Close at a certain time. Okay.
Yeah. So I had the rent. So all I had to do was get them to move, and I didn't know it at the time, but that's my strategy now. Is you go after. There's always someone who has influence in that small community. Big mama or someone like that. You know what I'm talking about. You go after that person, and you get that person to take the step first. And once they have the money in their hand, then that unlocks it all for you.
And then they're like how awesome you are. It's like the gang leaders. Okay, so how long, we'll kind of wrap this up. And, I think, have you written about this in your courses or your books or anything? How does people know the full details of this story? I
have a book and a course on that one, yeah. The book is called Building Wealth with Inner City Rentals. And the course is called How to Build Wealth, and that has a bunch of videos and audios, and as well as a PDF of the whole book as well, the course does.
Okay, and they can get that on your website or Amazon?
Yeah, website, books on Amazon, but yeah, my website has the course.
Okay, and how long was that total process like when you started making money? Like, how long did you die on that property?
After I got everyone out and did a remodel, I rented the entire thing to a nonprofit who was transition housing. So I was making money right away.
Cool.
So that went on for a year, and then, you know, the revitalization or the turning the neighborhood around, I didn't have a roadmap. What I'm trying to pass on to everyone now is a roadmap so they can do it faster and not make the mistakes and know about that other people have done this before. It's nothing new. It's just no one leaves a trail for other people to follow. You know, they don't write it down and tell folks how to do it.
Oh, that makes sense. All right, that's a wonderful story. So from the good to hood, from bad to good, the hood to good. All right, right now, the real hot topic, and you're speaking on that at the Mitchell Landlord Conference coming up, is Airbnb. I saw a presentation you gave not too long ago about that. Tell me, first of all, enlighten people, what is Airbnb, and how can a landlord make money doing Airbnb?
Oh man, that's a big chunk. So let me start at the top where two guys in San Francisco couldn't afford their rent because it's high, you know, San Francisco, New York. So they decided to rent 3 air mattresses for people to stay overnight and then give them breakfast the next day. And they charged $80 per air mattress, and that's how they started making money. So air bed and breakfast, Airbnb, came about in 2008. So it allows you to rent your space, whether it's an extra guest room in your house or your camper trailer, you know, any space. Some people rent the inside of a Honda Fit. So we can rent anything, but essentially it's known for, you know, renting a guest room or an entire apartment, which I'll be talking about coming up in Cancun. Yeah, things are changing. So it's so popular now. You know, cities have to update their regulations on what short-term rental means, and because it's going to cross over into the hospitality industry, and it's competing against the Marriott and Hilton. In fact, this Airbnb has more rooms under management than the Hilton has. They passed them up in 2012. So it's a force that folks have to recognize, and they're going to have to, you know, as part of the whole, cut out the middleman and work directly with other people. Just like with Craigslist. Remember how it nearly killed the newspaper industry? Craigslist came along? Yeah, same thing. People don't want the middleman in place. They rather divide the middleman's profit. But in between, you know, saving, so they just want to go direct. If they when you have a phone app and you can connect and get things on demand, and just like an Uber, you get what you need just to get there, you start cutting out the man, cut the man out. No one liked the man in the first place.
True. All right, so you do Airbnb now, is that right?
I do.
So tell me about a typical situation, you know, revenue and, you know.
Okay.
Tell us
I got a guy coming in at my 8-unit apartment complex, this one in the hood that's now good. I have 2 units of them that I use for Airbnb at different times of the year. For example, I have a guy, I have a 2-bedroom. So the guy contacted me through Airbnb. I have it on instant book, which means if they have a past reference with the website, they can book my place immediately and just lock it in. They don't have to do a bunch of back and forth and stuff. They just book it. The way I operate, I just send the guy information on how he can access my place. And he, through key box and digital locks, he's lets himself in. I get my payment. And then after he's done with his stay, he lets himself out and leaves a review for me on the Airbnb website, saying how great and awesome I am. And I leave a review for him so the next time he wants to book a place, the host will be able to read about him. Cool. So that's how it goes. It's kind of like a big fraternity of people, travelers and tourists. They basically they belong anywhere. That's the motto. They have a house wherever they go, or a space wherever they go.
So how much did you rent that room out for?
So I rented this one for $69 a night, which is
okay, how long,
which is
how
low. Is
how
low
long did you stay there?
he's going to be there for 4 days, and sometimes I have month-long rentals when I have my target is for rotating doctors because I'm next to the medical center. But this is I'm giving an example at a slow time in the year. This is January. We're recording this, which is the slowest travel season. The rates can go as high, in the summertime, it'll be over $100 a night.
So you have one unit with 2 bedrooms that you have dedicated to Airbnb.
Yes.
And you furnish these, and so like I did the math, you made $300 or $276 off of that one guy. If someone rented for a month, it would roughly be around $2,000.
Right.
So
I'll cut them a deal though. Right.
Yeah, of course, like $1,500 or whatever. What's the typical rent? Well, this is 2 rooms now. You can double this out of one unit.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what's the typical rent? Like, what's the monthly rent that the other units get, like the lady above or whatever?
So the lady, I have my doc dormitory above it, but that's a whole other conversation. So this apartment would go for unfurnished. It should go high market rent right now. Should be about $800. Unfurnished,
wow.
no utilities. Okay. So I can put some just the essentials that they care about, which is really important. You don't go overboard. Just the things that people really care about, and pretty much average, $1,200-$1,300 gross, and of course I pay cleaning and utilities out of that. So it's basically starting. There's startup costs with getting your kitchen, all the equipment in your kitchen. That's what people they want to. A lot of people who book these places want to cook for themselves. They may have families and different things like that, or they don't want to be disconnected from the community like you would be in a hotel. You're just away from everything.
This sounds like a great deal. Have you had any problems with this? Has anybody damaged your property, or you didn't get paid? Have you had any problems? Like, what's a negative or a couple of negatives to Airbnb so we're aware of?
Yeah, you don't get paid because the website handles that. They pay you 24 hours after the person checks in for the duration of their stay. So the money's never an issue. And you have deposits, and of course Airbnb has its own guarantee that they'll pay damages up to $1 million. So you don't have to worry about those things. And, I've been Airbnb myself as a guest, staying at different Airbnbs and offering it since 2012. And every single experience has been good. And I've been doing it all over the country as a guest. And every person I've had has been good. Everywhere I stayed, I've had a good experience since 2012.
Man, it's going to revolutionize, just like you said, the hospitality. There's a loss of revenue there because I know when I stay at a hotel, there's always fees. There's always travel fees, and I wonder if they're going to start charging fees to Airbnb.
Yeah, so fees, like that's rolling out in Sacramento, the transient tax, and Airbnb is they're driving that. Hey, just let us, don't regulate us, just have us pay transient tax for less than 30-day stays, just like you would a hotel. Otherwise, they do like they're trying in San Francisco, or the hospitality industry. They come down with some really strict laws. They're trying to stamp out Airbnb, of course, because it's eating their lunch. So they're trying to they're fighting back with city ordinances. And here's a new one for you. I'm going to break this on the Savvy Show. They're coming up with their own brands. They're coming up putting a brand, extending a brand onto your apartment. So you could have, you could be part of the Marriott as a Savvy Landlord. He's
at my casa, so it could be Marriott Casa Savvy.
That's right.
And then you pay Marriott a percentage, gangster.
You can't beat them. Join them, right?
No, if I was CEO of Marriott, I think that's ingenious, brand awareness, and there's a level of standard,
Right.
It's called the Marriott flag, and if a hotel gets dinged enough, they get heavily fined, and eventually they'll pull their flag from them, and you cannot be a Marriott anymore because you're a terrible hotel operator. I mean, I love it, and I think that actually may be the future. You know, of course, it always boils down to money and who profits from what and so on.
Yeah, there's a lot of, affordable housing people are upset about some things, and there's a whole lot to it.
Yeah, totally.
It'll work itself out just like Amazon worked itself out with the brick and mortar places.
Yeah, I mean, would you ever know that, Amazon has slapped Walmart like a little bitch? I mean, seriously, Walmart, $13 billion a year. I mean, when you mathematically run those numbers per minute, per day, is by far baffling. And Amazon, taking years of losses, has overcome Walmart, and Walmart can't even keep up with their. I ordered something the other day from Walmart, and it took them like 10 days to deliver in 6 different packages. They'll never. I don't know if they'll ever compete with Amazon, which is amazing, and it all benefits us as consumers, which is exciting. There's real competition. Walmart, you can only get 2 types of shaving cream. You have to go to Target to get 4 different kinds, but you're going to pay double. It's just an interesting climate. And then you can go to Amazon, you can get 30 different kinds of shaving cream cheaper than it was at Walmart.
And delivered to you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Or within hours.
Yeah, in your market, I mean, I know they're testing all kinds of craziness, like 1-hour delivery, groceries, Amazon grocery delivery. But this is not the Amazon show. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I wanted to get into extra income, and, I'm going to keep my listeners at bay, and then they're going to clamor. And we're going to have you back. We're going to have you back on the show. I'm going to see you next week, and we'll do it live. I'll bring the recorder down there, and we'll cover a couple of more episodes. If you're interested, because I think this is a great topic, and if you're a landlord out there, like I have an apartment building, and I'm probably going to pull the trigger and get your course on Airbnb. And it's if you're serious, that if you got an empty unit, an apartment building, or even a home near a college or something, try this out. Get some cheap furniture. I've done this before. I've rented furniture. So I'm even thinking about renting some furniture. It's like a couple $100 a month for 6 months, and testing Airbnb, because I have an apartment building right next to a college. I mean, it's walking distance. Listeners out there, Al he's open. He's willing to help you. He's got a very inexpensive course. You'll get your return on your investment. Go to AirBnBlandlord.com. That's BNB. Yeah, BNB, right? And landlord.com. Is there a phone number they can call and get a hold of you? Is that okay? We can, your wife won't get upset. Do you have a number? I want to keep that on the DL.
Yeah, I'll keep that on the DL, but I'm super accessible by, on my phone going off, super accessible by email.
Okay, so shout out your email.
Yeah, so it's Al at leadinglandlord.com.
And is that plural? So it's leading, LEADING, LANDORD, right? Leading?
Yep, landlord.com.
No S, right?
No S, that's right.
Okay, so get a hold of Al at leadinglandlord.com, and he would answer your questions. I think, how much is your course?
The Airbnb course introductory right now is $29.
$29. So for some of you rich folks out there at Starbucks, that's like Starbucks and a cake pop.
It's going up though. I'm just introducing it to the market, but it's going up.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. Can't wait to see you next week, and we're definitely going to have you back on the show, Al. Great success. I love interviewing people that are just starting out. And it's crazy that you've been, 20 years, that you've been a landlord by someone that loved you enough to say, hey, go buy an asset, especially for your wife. Thanks for being on the show, Al.
All right.
And
thank you.
I'll have you back on sooner than later.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to The Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.